We are back and I have another track overview for you. This time it's for my piece Battlecry of Heroes, which you can listen to up here. I'll be talking again about some orchestration tips, how I structured the piece, different elements that are inside, so let's go. So this piece basically consists of two structural elements that I alternate between. The one is the part where we have the very short string staccato, which is driving the piece forward, and the other part is what I call the lyrical material. So we start off with like a minute of the rhythmic string material, which builds up first, then it drops, and then we get to the high point again. Alternated with the lyrical section. Then we have a melodic section where the rhythmic material is layered with a melody. It's played twice, and in the end everything comes together and we have a mashup of the both types of material. I want to start off with these short strings in the start. I did a full breakdown of how I used this layering technique of different libraries to create the sound I wanted in one of my orchestration hack videos, which I'll link below and up here. And what I wanted here was this really short 16th rhythmic string sound that really drives through. And below that we have the short strings, which alternate in the chords. And for these I used a couple of libraries as well. So it's a mixture of Hollywood strings from East West as well as Adagio's Adagio strings. And I placed them really close in the mix so they are really upfront and in your face. And to add to this driving force that is going throughout the piece even more, I added a couple of synth and percussion elements. So let's talk about the synths first. I have one pulse going on throughout a lot of the piece basically. And this just adds to the sound of this rhythmic tension there is. And this comes from Adagio's Hybrid Tools 3. And basically every synth sound I add on top of that, whether it's a synth bass or another kind of effect like this, it has a tremolo on it. So this concerns mostly the synth bass, which has a tremolo, and this fall effect. So when they're all playing together in the build, this 16th, this rhythmic drive is also continued in the synth. In this riser here, I also use a tremolo, but I made sure to bypass the effect for the first 3/4 of it. And then when it reaches its climax, that is where it also starts getting rhythmical. The other element to add to the rhythmic drive is, of course, the percussion. And now it can be very tempting to use all the percussion to have these fast rhythms as well. But to start it off, I chose to only do it in a very tiny sound. So it's very subtle, but it is something that ties the entire piece together, because also when we get to the lyrical section later, this little sound is the only thing of the percussion that continues and keeps the momentum going. For the other, the large percussion, we basically have a slower rhythm and not just the 16th notes. And when we start building the percussion and start building the piece, the 16th pattern is added there as well. So when we start building this rhythm, I add a staccato choir. And this is again a layering of two different choir libraries. So the first one I have is from East West Hollywood Choirs. And I've loaded a multi. And with this word builder plugin, you can type in words and then the choir will sing these words. Here I chose two vowels which have a sharp attack. And it sounds like this if you would only play the word builder choir. So you do get the sense that you have the changing vowels, the changing words. However, the thing I don't really like is the staccato effect. It's not as punchy as I would like. So I chose to layer it with a regular staccato vowel from the same choir library. So together you would get the sense of, all right, we have staccato, but we also, there's a word that is being sung and not just one vowel that's repeated. So for the next section, I wanted the rhythm to continue, but I needed a little drop so we could build some more. And this middle section I call the ethnical section, because I use 3 elements for this transition that give it kind of an ethnic feel. First one is this little percussion element. So this has a natural fade to it, and I enhance it even more by placing it pretty far in the back. Another element is an accent in the ney, which is an ethnical flute. And then to fill up this middle section and to give it some variation, I also added a solo voice, a phrase from East West Voices of the Empire. So these transitional effects make sure that there is still something going on in this little in-between section, and it gives a unique sound to it with these ethnic elements. Next up we have the high point again with the staccato choir. And next up I really felt like I did really need a break from all the rhythmic craziness that's going on. So here we come to what I call the lyrical section. I want to focus on the strings first. So for this I knew I wanted to create this really intricate texture and kind of a web of different string lines going together, going against each other, where it's like a tapestry of melodies and counter melodies to make this really this big romantic lyrical section. And that did take me quite a while, but I'm really happy with the end result. So these are the main melodic lines in all the different string sections except the double basses because they play the bass line. There's one orchestration choice I want to point out here, and that's in the violas and the celli. Most of the time you would think, of course, you have first violins, second violins, violas, celli in terms of from high to low. However, the cello is really beautiful and really expressive in the higher register. So towards the end of this line, I chose to let the celli go higher than the violas, so they would really get in this expressive register. So this is just a tip for me to, when you're writing for strings, don't automatically assume that you need to write from high to low, from high instrument to low instrument. Different instruments have a different character when they reach another range of their instrument, and it can be really beautiful to mix those up once in a while. So doubling this, we have some woodwinds, which are doubling the melodic lines and the bass line. I have a choir that sings the chords throughout, and layering this choir, I have the following. That is me singing. I did a full video on this effect and why I use it in another orchestration hack, which I'll link up here. But the basic idea is to, when you have these choir chords, to sing a couple of lines by yourself and layer them with the choir sample you're using to give it an effect of realism and that there is an actual human singing these lines and adding his or her interpretation to these lines. And another melody that's added towards the end, adding even more to the tapestry we have going on, is a melody in female voice, female choir, and this melody will become important towards the end as well. thing I want to point out about the percussion here. So as you see, I have these cymbal rolls. And very often when I hear orchestral music, it is produced, you know, like this with samples and synths. Sometimes I can hear, oh, that cymbal roll is from that percussion library. Also because I have used the same cymbal rolls over and over again. And while the thing is, I have my own cymbal. And when you put your microphone at quite a distance, so you don't hear every individual beat, you can just simply record your own cymbal rolls. It's very easy. You just go through it once. You can get some pretty good results. And I am the only person who has these cymbal rolls, so I'm quite happy with them. Next up we go to the melody section, which is where the rhythmic pattern returns again. However, now we layer it with a melody. And now it is time for the epic, heroic, big horn melodies. So I use horns, obviously. And the second time I used the melody, I knew I wanted in a higher register, in strings, but also in a solo female vocal. And now you can use libraries for this. However, I am lucky enough to be married to a woman who actually can sing. So I dragged her in the studio and we recorded it together. So I'm really happy with how it sounds. I'm really happy with her, obviously. And I'm quite happy with the result. Now we are in the final section, which is where everything comes together. And it's really the final big climax of the piece. So I bring out more percussion, 2 different drum kits here. So I use these kits to give the going 16th pattern a little bit more of a structure in the instead of it just going on and going on and going on. There's now a bit of a structure in there. And I use the staccato brass to add to this structure as well. And the chords we are playing here are from the lyrical section. And the melody we hear towards the end is also from the lyrical section, but then only the female vocals melody. And now here in the end, it's played by the entire orchestra. And I recorded some bass guitar, which I put quite a bit of distortion on, to also again add to the rhythm we have going on and the harshness of the bass line, let's say, to add more body to it. Last couple of bars, they are basically a large mashup of the D minor chords, the pieces in D minor. It is, right? Yes, it is. With everything that has come before. And then to close it off, I use the same ethnic transitional elements I used earlier, which have this natural fade out in them to basically let it die out. And that's it. I hope you enjoyed that. I'll try to post more regularly coming time. I would really appreciate if you would like the video, maybe subscribe if you haven't. And from my space to yours, have a great day.